Funding for this program provided in part by the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce and by the Sanibel Inn.
Man. No, I'm lost. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I can't find a place to paint. I'm thirsty. Wait. What's this? Whoa. Hi. Thank you. You're welcome. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Fagan, and welcome to Painting on Location. I'm here on Sanibel Island, and I'm going to be painting over at the Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. So sit back, relax, watch me make a fool out of myself, and have some fun. Well, what do you think? Mighty pretty spot here, huh? This is kind of typical area of this National Wildlife Refuge here. It's a Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. Anyway, there's a lot of little tributaries like this, and you have the mangrove trees kind of growing up, and then once in a while a bird will land. I saw a crocodile a while ago, too, so I'm gonna have to keep my eyes open. I don't want anybody to drag me in the water. They'd probably spit me back out anyway, so. I stopped at the visitor center and I picked up a book, and this has a lot of information about the refuge. And since I can't get these birds to hold still for me, I thought I would cheat a little bit and maybe copy from this picture. I want to put a bird in this picture here, just about where that young lady's standing down there. So this is the great egret, and it's, see if I can pronounce the Latin name here. It's Camerata alabilibladablatus, something like that. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch the actual scene in here and then put the bird standing over here on the ground someplace. So I'll get started on that. Now, it's just a quick pencil sketch. It's really, you don't have to put a lot of detail in it or anything like that. That kind of comes down in here, and I kind of like that little area back in there. There's more trees in here. And that little bank kind of comes over here like that, and there's some kind of grass along the side of the water there. That's kind of nice. That alligator was laying right over here a while ago. All right. And then we have the water. Now, depending on which way the wind's blowing, the water's going to be changing constantly. So I'm just going to kind of experiment with that right now. I'm going to put some reflections in there. And I think what I want to do is I want to put my bird, this egret, someplace in here. There's a nice dark shadow here, and since the bird is white, I'm going to make it even whiter. Now this shape is kind of a, it's kind of like an S in here. Just a simple shape. See if I can sketch that in. I'll start with an S, like that. That's the bird's neck. And then it comes up like that, and it makes a kind of an egg shape in here. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exact. I just want to put some life in here. And then to follow that line back again, back up here. And it looks like he's kind of looking down at the water there, so I'll just make that shape. I don't want to make it look like Daffy Duck here. So, something like that. And I think what I want to do here too is just so I won't have to worry about this white space here, I'm going to put some liquid mask on here. Now this is, it's kind of a, it's kind of like white rubber cement. And what I'll do is I'll apply that on that area and let that dry. And then whenever I paint the trees in the background, I won't have to paint around this. You know, in watercolor, we're constantly painting around things. So I can leave this white and just paint everything in the background. And then after everything in the background is dry, I'll come back and kind of rub that off, and there'll be a nice white area there. So I'll do that. So I'll just put some of that on there. You really can't see this that well. You have to kind of remember where you're putting it. All this does is it just makes it a little bit easier to paint if you don't have to paint around something like this that has a definite shape to it. A few feathers back here. But I'm gonna have to let this dry, and once it's dry, then I'll come back and start throwing paint on this puppy. So stand back and relax. All right, I'm gonna start off with a little sky color here, a little blue. Kind of mix that in. This is kind of a cool blue here. I think it's a phthalo, I believe. A lot of the colors I have in my palette, I don't even know what they are anymore. I just, when I go to the art store, I buy different colors, and I you know, use them for a while. If I like them, I keep them. If I don't, I put new paint in. Mix up a nice sky color. And I'm just going to kind of paint that right behind these trees and everything. I want to put some of those clouds in. They're kind of lazy looking clouds. It's a little bit hazy right now. And I kind of like the way that looks. So I'll just kind of brush that in. Something like that. Kind of paint around some of those clouds. Get a little water and brush that down to those trees there. I'm going to be painting dark back in there anyway. Now I'm going to get the same color, the same blue, and put that down in the water because the water's reflecting what's up above. And as the water gets close to the bank here, it gets lighter. So I need that because these weeds here are darker compared to the water. So I'll go ahead and put some of that in. And get a little bit of water, kind of spread that out. Right down into water. A lot of times people will say, golly, you use such big brushes. How can you possibly use such a big brush? Well, you have to think about it like if you were going to paint a room in your home, you wouldn't use a small brush, you'd use a big brush because it's a big surface. And that's kind of what I think about when I come out and paint like this. I have to start covering up the paper, so I like to use big brushes. And as I get into more detail, then everything gets smaller, and that's when it becomes a lot of fun. The first part like this is where I think it's the most scary because it is a big white sheet of paper. All right, now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get darker. I'm going to start putting in those distant trees back there. I'll reach over here and get a little yellow and mix it with a little blue. Maybe a little burnt sienna. That's kind of a brown color. To start making that rough edge back there, those distant trees. See how that brush is just kind of a dry brush? I've got it laying on its side. You don't have to go in and paint each leaf. Reach back and get a different color, maybe a little more yellow. Just start bringing all that down. A little more yellow. See that? Isn't that fun? Bob, you make it look so easy. Well, really it is if you learn to simplify. It's hard to do. Simplifying is hard to do. We're all so complicated, and we make things a lot harder than they really are most of the time. A little blue, and I'm going to start making some of my water back in here. I'm going to make kind of a straight line down here at the bottom. Now this is all going to dry lighter, so I can go back in there later several times. Use a little brown this time, a little more yellow, a little more blue. So you just kind of let it mix together by itself. All right, same thing back over here with these the trees that are a little bit closer. I'm going to make those a little bit darker. Put some blue in there. Don't really know. People say, well, there isn't. The trees aren't blue. Well, they're not really, but their green is basically a cool color. So cool colors are blue and green. You can mix them together. Mix a little yellow in with that. That's a warm color. Reach back and get some blue. A little more yellow, red, yellow, and blue. Actually, those are the three primary colors. That's we learned that in grade school. Paint around some of this, some of these weeds here. Here again, it's just a dry brush. I really love this brush. All right, something kind of like that. It's kind of as a first wash. All right, I'm going to mix up some more yellow here, and I'm going to make these weeds here on the bank. I'm just kind of flipping the brush around. I'm thinking how the shapes of those weeds there. First, I'll make the top part. Something like that, just little irregular things. A little dry brush. We'll flip the brush around like that. Reach in and get another color. Try not to see too much detail when you paint out on a location like this. Mostly it's just to go out and have a nice time. It really relaxes me. I think that's why I'm so laid back. It just, if I don't get out and do it, I get a little crazy. So I love to go out and do this. Just paint right over that bird there. Remember, the bird's going to be white, so I need to make sure it's dark behind that bird. So, now I'm going to take a little bit of yellow back here and paint that water because there's sun kind of creeping through over there, that water area. And put some of that in. And I'll go ahead and make some more shapes back in here. Got to think lots of trees, water, it's wild, it's untamed. It's where all the creatures live. All right. I was also going to say that there's a path right here, right next to me here, and this is where most of the people walk up and down this path. This is a wildlife refuge, and people come and they bring their cameras and their binoculars, bird watch, and look at all the animals and stuff. So you probably once in a while will hear somebody else talking, and that's what that is. Of course, a while ago, a bunch of them stood over here and started laughing at me. I don't know why, but, you know, don't be afraid to get out and paint on location. Nobody laughs at you. I'm just kidding. All right, I'll just a few little stuff like that.
We're one of about 511 national wildlife refuges across the country. The refuge was established on December 1st, 1945, and as a national wildlife refuge, we just had our 50th anniversary recently. Actually, his name was J. Norwood Darling, all right, and he was a political cartoonist. Through his cartoons, many people were first made aware of conservation and the need for conservation movement in the United States. Over 200 species of birds will come through the refuge, and many of the birds that people see up north or in the southern states, they'll also see down here year-round. But what happens is during the wintertime, many of those birds will migrate down here to Ding Darling, and we'll call this home for the wintertime. The refuge is approximately 6,000 acres, a little over 6,000 acres. We take up the whole northern half of the island. So I would say that that were about 1/2 of the island. But what is interesting, this conservation movement that was started by the people of Sanibel and Captiva has spread over into the private sector also. And we have the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation that also manages about a little over 1,000 acres of land for conservation here on the island. So well over half, if not, I would say about 3/5 of the island is probably set aside for wildlife conservation. By itself, this refuge isn't important. But when you combine that with 511 other national wildlife refuges that make up the wildlife refuge system, with the efforts of private citizens to preserve and protect and enhance wildlife in this country, we can make a difference. And that's what this refuge is, just a very small part in a very large puzzle.
All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go way back in the back there where this creek kind of turns and goes the other way. There's a nice dark shadow back in there. A little reflection down there, some more shadows, like that. And then come back and paint on the other side because there's another lighter tree over here. Something kind of like that. Just make some shapes. Actually, I'm making that shape with the bottom part of my brush. And then that just kind of comes up into there, kind of disappears. And I'll thin that out with a little water. And I'll just come back over here now with the same stuff and make some shadows underneath some of these trees. It's kind of a dry brush. One there, and then there's some over here. Just make some shapes. I'll come back in there later and add some branches and stuff. See, the brush is doing most of the work. I'm just holding on to it. I'm the holder of the brushes. You know, really, there isn't any difference between painting trees here in South Florida than painting the ones up in Michigan. You know, a tree's a tree. Basically, all it is it's just different shapes. Try to think shapes rather than objects, like say, well, the color of these trees are different than they are in Michigan. Well, they might be, but it depends on the light. But actually, you're painting shapes. Just always think shapes. Try not to think details. Try not to analyze things to death. Something in there, shape there, some variation, that. All right. I'm going to start putting in some of the reflections of the trees in the water. Now this will help explain what this big shape is here. Right now, it could be most anything. It could be a road. So I need to make the symbol for water. So, and that will change because the wind's blowing and it's moving the surface of the water around. So I'll just kind of pick what it's doing right now. Paint a big shape like that. Paint up to my bank, leave some little white areas in there. Get that area wet, like that. Then, I'll go ahead and bring that over here. Add some green, yellow to that. And then start making that water. See how that water's kind of shaking around? Yeah, I'm going to use the flat side of the brush now. Kind of do some of this. It doesn't take a lot. See how the water, it makes movement in that water. See that? And you can go back in there later and add more if you need it. And just kind of make some of those water shapes there. Isn't that fun? Put a bigger one over here, maybe. See how I have my brush horizontal? Water is horizontal, but it has vertical reflections. All right, I don't want to do too much of that. I think I'll go back in and while that's still wet and drop some more color in there and kind of let it spread out. Maybe put a little more yellow in that, kind of bring it vertically like this. See that? That also helps to explain that shape. Just think of them as shapes. How can I simplify? All right, I'm going to put in a few tree branches now and kind of make more sense out of this area. So just a dark color. What I'll do is I'll start a tree, come up a little ways, stop, and then poke back through. They're not very big. They're just mangrove trees, and I guess they don't get real tall. I just need to put a few of those in there anyway, just to show what this is. See how that kind of pokes in and out? Put some more over here. Put a little more color in that. Something like that, just here and there. Now you can take something like this back home after you leave a location spot and add more stuff to it. You just kind of want to get enough down while you're out to remember what it was that you were trying to say. Just a few here and there. Maybe one over here. It doesn't take a whole lot. I'm going to stop and peel off my birds, and then I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow on them, and just about done. So I'm going to make sure this is dry back behind here, and it feels like it is. So let's see what happens here. This is like the part where you pull it out of the oven. You just take your finger and kind of rub that off. Look at that. And then the other one's back here. Okay? Now all I got to do is put a few little shadows on there. So I'll just mix up a light wash of blue here, because the bird's white, and if he's in the part of him is in the shade, then it's going to have kind of a blue cast. So I'll just put on the other side because the sun's coming from this direction. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. Maybe drop a little bit of yellow in that just to warm parts of it up. And then maybe a beak. The beak I know is probably kind of an orange color. Put some of that on there, just enough to show a little variation. And of course the legs are just dark. I'll just kind of indicate those. Something, let's see, to come down like that, maybe back. Just enough. I don't want to show too much because I'm not sure what they look like exactly. So I'll just kind of indicate them. Something like that. He's kind of strolling around. Looks like he's getting ready to get in the water. This other one, I'm going to trim it down a little bit. It's a little bit too fat. So how I do that is just mix up some more of the same color of the trees. It's yellow and blue. And go back up into the trees and paint more trees closer to the bird. See, I can come back like this and slim that bird up. It looks a little fat there. Like that, maybe. Maybe a little more on the top. And then paint more trees. Paint darker behind him. Kind of blend all that back out. So none of that shows. So it doesn't look like there's an outline. See that? All right. A few more shadows back in here. Well, I think we can stick a fork in this one. I think it's done. All I have to do is put your name on there now. Well, I've had a great time here today. This is a beautiful spot. If you ever get a chance to come to Florida, come to Ding Darling Wildlife Refuge. Walk around, look at the animals. There's crocodiles here. There are alligators. They're not crocodiles. The crew's saying, Bob, they're alligators. So they're alligators, not crocodiles. Get a chance, come here. Bring your paints, bring your camera, bring your family. Kick back, relax. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm on to the next place. And I have no idea where that's going to be. I'm just going to drive around and find it. So until the next time I see you, I'm Bob Fagan. We've been painting on location.
This program is available on video for just $17.95 or $179.95 for the whole 13-part Sanibel Captiva series. Also, Bob has produced 3 one-hour instructional videos on the art of watercolor painting. Each one is available for $19.95 or $36.95 for your choice of 2, or all 3 for $54.95. Call 1-800-353-2232 to order.
Wait, what's this? Oh, hey, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, hi everyone, I'm Bob Fagan. Welcome to Painting on Location. In a few minutes, I'm going to be heading over to the Ding Darling preservation place, the wildlife preserve place. Take 2. Okay. So stupid.
You're doing good.
Wait, what's this? Oh, wow, great. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Fagan and welcome to Painting on Location. I am here on Sanibel Island. I'm getting ready to go over to the Ding Darling National Wildlife Preserve. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. National Wildlife Preserve. Refuge. Now today I'm going to be heading over to the Ding Darling National Wildlife Preserve.